Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. I will not introduce anything. You guys watch the video and feel it. Then let's evaluate together. The Manhattan skyline glittered like 1,000 promises, its neon pulse cutting through the humid summer night. On the rooftop of the Vibe, a swanky bar perched atop a glass tower. The air buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, and the low hum of a jazz quartet. Fairy lights twinkled overhead, casting a warm glow over the crowd. Fashion, insiders, influencers, and New York's elite all sipping overpriced cocktails and chasing clout. But for Zara Brooks, the only heat that mattered was the one sparking under her skin as she swayed against Isel Carter, their bodies dangerously close. Her sequined dress, a deep emerald number. She'd stitched herself from recycled Harlem. Denim shimmered under the neon, hugging her curves like a second skin. Every step she took sent the fabric sliding against her, a reminder of the hours she'd poured into her craft. Isel's tailored black suit, sharp enough to cut glass, brushed against her as they moved to the sultry rhythm of the saxophone. His hand rested low on her back, fingers grazing the bare skin exposed by her dress's plunging cut. The touch sent a jolt through her, hot and electric like a spark ready to ignite. "Careful, Carter," Zara murmured, her voice low, teasing as she tilted her head to meet his stormy gray eyes. "You're playing with fire." Isel's lips curved into a half smirk, the kind that screamed CEO arrogance but made her pulse race anyway. "And you're fanning the flames." "Brooks." He shot back his deep voice, a rumble that drowned out the jazz for a moment. His grip tightened, pulling her closer, their chests brushing as the music dipped into a slower, sultrier note. Her breath caught the city's hum, fading as his scent cedarwood and a hint of bourbon wrapped around her. The rooftop spun the fairy lights, blurring into streaks of gold. His lips hovered inches from hers, close enough that she could feel the warmth of his breath against her skin. For a second, she forgot why they were here, forgot the cameras flashing from the crowd, forgot the deal they hadn't even made yet. All she could feel was the heat, the pull, the way his eyes pinned her like she was the only person in New York. Then a camera flash popped sharp and blinding, snapping her back to reality. Zara stepped back, her heart pounding as she smoothed her dress. "This ain't real, Carter," she said, more to herself than to him. "Don't get it twisted." Isel's smirk didn't waver, but something flickered in his eyes. Amusement maybe, or a challenge. "Keep telling yourself that," he said, stepping away as the song ended, leaving her skin buzzing where his hands had been. The crowd around them buzzed louder now. Phones pointed their way, whispers rippling like wildfire. Zara caught snippets. "Is that Isel Carter's new girl? She's nobody. Just some Harlem designer." Her jaw tightened. She wasn't nobody. She was Zara Brooks, the woman who'd clawed her way through a cutthroat industry, stitching dreams from scraps while the world tried to box her in. But tonight wasn't about her dreams. It was about survival for her mom's hospital bills, for the Harlem Art Center, teetering on the edge of foreclosure. And apparently for Isel Carter, the ice king of chosen couture, whose empire was crumbling under the weight of a scandal. 2 hours earlier, Harlem's Apollo Theater had been a different kind of stage. The historic venue pulsed with energy, its red velvet curtains framing a runway, where Zara's designs, bold, vibrant, woven with the soul of her community, stole the show. Her collection, Roots Reborn, was a love letter to Harlem. Denim repurposed from thrift stores, Kente-inspired prints, silhouettes that screamed power and pride. Every stitch told a story, from the jazz clubs her dad once played to the stoops where she'd sketched as a kid. She'd poured everything into this night, knowing it was her shot to break through an industry that barely gave black designers a seat at the table. But as she stood backstage adjusting a model's head wrap, she overheard the whispers. "Token hire," one editor sneered. "She's only here for the diversity quota." Zara's fists clenched, but she kept her head high. Let them talk. Her work would shut them up. Then Esel Carter walked in, and the room shifted. At 35, he was a force 6'2", with a jawline that could carve marble and eyes that saw through bullshit. His presence sucked the air out of the Apollo, every head turning as he moved through the crowd like he owned it. Chosen Couture. His luxury brand was a global giant, but the man behind it was a mystery, especially after his messy divorce from Adrienne Morrow, who'd sold company secrets to their rival Drake Lear. Zara had heard the rumors. Adrienne's betrayal had tanked Chosen's stock, and the board was circling like vultures ready to oust Esel if he didn't clean up his image. She didn't care about his drama until he stopped at her runway, his gaze locking on her designs, then on her impressive work. "Miss Brooks," he said, his voice smooth as bourbon, low enough to make her shiver. "You've got something real here." She crossed her arms, unimpressed by the charm. "Thanks, but I'm not here for compliments. I'm here to change the game." His brow lifted, a spark of interest in his eyes. "Bold. I like that. We need to talk." She didn't trust him, not with that calculated look, but she followed him to a quiet corner of the Apollo where the hum of the crowd faded. He didn't waste time. "My board's breathing down my neck," he said, leaning against a velvet curtain. "They want stability, a new narrative. I saw the cameras out there. People think we're together after that photo." Zara frowned, remembering the moment she'd tripped on a cable, and Esel had caught her, his arm around her waist as flashes went off. "That was an accident," she snapped. "I'm not your PR stunt." "Maybe not," he said, his voice dropping. "But you need something too." "I did my homework, Zara. Your mom's bills are piling up in that art center you love. It's one bad month from being bulldozed. I can help." Her stomach twisted. He'd dug into her life, and she hated how exposed it made her feel. "What's your angle, Carter? No angle a deal." He stepped closer, his eyes holding hers. "Play the part, my partner, my muse. I'll fund your brand, cover your mom's bills, save that center. In return, you help me keep my company." She laughed, sharp and bitter. "You want me to fake it for the cameras?" "Pass." "Think about it," he said, unfazed. "You're fighting a world that doesn't want you to win. I'm offering a way to flip the script. No strings, no feelings, just business." Zara's mind raced. Her mom's chemo wasn't cheap, and the creative hub where she'd learned to sew was her heart. But tying herself to Esel Carter, that was a gamble. Still, the fire in his eyes, the way he saw her not as a token, but as a force, made her pause. "Fine," she said finally, her voice steady. "But I'm not your puppet. I call shots too, and if you cross me, I'm out." He extended a hand, his smirk back. "Deal." She shook it, ignoring the heat of his palm the way it lingered a second too long. "Don't make me regret this, Carter." Back on the rooftop, the party was in full swing, but Zara felt the weight of 1,000 eyes. The photo from the Apollo had gone viral, Twitter buzzing with hashtags, I sell new Bay, hard Harlem Queen. She sipped her mojito, the mint sharp on her tongue, and scanned the crowd. Influencers snapped selfies, editors whispered, and somewhere she knew Adrienne was watching, waiting to pounce. Esel leaned against the bar beside her, his sleeve brushing her arm. "Relax, Brooks," he said, handing her a glass of bourbon. "You're doing fine." "Easy for you to say," she muttered, taking a sip, the liquor burning her throat. "You're not the one they're calling a gold digger." His jaw tightened, a flicker of something, anger, maybe crossing his face. "Let them talk. They'll eat their words when you're running this game." She raised a brow, surprised by the conviction in his voice. "What's in it for you, Carter?" "Why me?" He looked at her, really looked, his eyes tracing her face like he was seeing her for the first time. Because you're real, he said quietly. This world's full of fakes, but you're fire. And I need that. Her heart skipped, but she pushed it down. This was business, nothing more. Still, as they stepped back onto the dance floor for the cameras, her body betrayed her, leaning into his touch, craving the heat she'd sworn to ignore. Across the rooftop, a figure watched from the shadows. Adrienne Amaro, her blonde hair gleaming under the lights, sipped her martini. Her eyes narrow. Enjoy your moment, Zara, she murmured, her voice venomous. It won't last. The next morning, Zara woke to her phone buzzing like a hornet's nest. Notifications flooded her screen, articles, tweets, DMs, Isel Carter's mystery woman, Harlem designer or opportunist. One headline screamed, another chosen couture's savior or scandal. Her stomach churned as she scrolled the words, cutting deeper than she'd admit. She was still processing when Naya Carter, her best friend, and a fierce community activist burst into her tiny Harlem apartment, coffee in hand. Girl, you viral, Nia said, tossing her braids back. You and Mr. CEO got the internet in a chokehold. Zara groaned, rubbing her temples. It's a mess, Nia. They're saying I'm using him. Nia's eyes softened, but her voice was firm. Then show 'em who you are. Zara, you're Harlem's heart, not some tabloid pawn. But you sure about this Carter guy? He's got baggage. I don't trust him, Zara admitted, pulling on a hoodie. But I need him. Mom's bills. The hub. This is my shot. Naya sighed, handing her the coffee. Just don't lose yourself. Okay, Harlem needs you whole. Zara nodded, but as she stepped into the morning light, the weight of her choice settled heavier. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for her mom, her community, her legacy, and somehow, Isel Carter was part of that fight now. At Chosen Couture's sleek Manhattan headquarters, Isel stood at his office window, the skyline stretching before him. His phone buzzed with messages from the board. Fix this, Carter, or you're out. He ignored them, his mind on Zara, her fire, her defiance, the way she'd felt in his arms last night. She was a risk, a wild card, but something about her made him want to bet it all. His assistant knocked, breaking his thoughts. Sir Adrienne's team just leaked a story. They're saying Zara's a fraud. Isel's fists clenched, his voice cold. Let them try, Zara's no fraud. She's the real deal. And I'll make sure the world knows it. Yo, that's the spark of Zara and Isel's fire, y'all. Harlem's queen and the Ice King are just getting started, but the heat's already blazing. Where you vibing from? Drop it in the comments and let us know what you think of this rooftop moment. Hit that subscribe button to catch the drama, the love and the fire coming next. Let's keep this vibe lit. The air in Harlem's creative hub smelled of spray paint and dreams, a mix of acrylic and ambition that clung to the walls covered in murals. Zara Brooks stood in the center of the art studio, her hands smudged with charcoal from sketching new designs. The space buzzed with life. Kids painting canvases, teens practicing spoken word, an old sewing machine humming in the corner where Zara had first learned to stitch. This was her sanctuary, the heart of her community, but the eviction notice taped to the door felt like a knife to her chest. She ripped it down, crumpling the paper as her phone buzzed with another notification. Twitter was relentless. Zara Brooks, Isel Carter's side piece, or scam artist. The headlines stung, each one sharper than the last. She'd known playing Isel's fake girlfriend would come with heat, but this was a wildfire, and she was standing in the middle of it. Her best friend Nia Carter leaned against a mural of jazz legends, her braids catching the sunlight streaming through the studio's cracked windows. You good, Zara? Nia asked, her voice soft but laced with worry. The internet's tearing you apart. Zara forced a smile, tossing her phone onto a table cluttered with fabric swatches. I'm fine, Nia. Just another day in paradise? Naya wasn't buying it. She crossed her arms, her activist edge cutting through. Don't lie to me, girl. You're out here posing with Mr. CEO while Harlem's fighting to keep this place. You sure this fake fling is worth it? Zara's smile faded. Naya wasn't wrong. The creative hub was more than a building. It was where her dad's saxophone had echoed, where her mom had taught her to sew, where she'd found her voice. But with her mom's chemo bills stacking up and the hub facing foreclosure, Esel's deal was her only lifeline. I don't have a choice, she said quietly. This ain't just about me. It's about Mom, the kids here, all of us. Nia's eyes softened, but she didn't let up. Just watch your back. Zara, Esel, Carter's world. Choose up people like us. And Adrienne, she's out for blood. Zara nodded, her stomach twisting at the mention of Isel's ex. Adrienne. Morrow was a ghost, haunting every corner of this mess, her shadow looming larger with every viral tweet. But Zara wasn't built to back down. She'd faced worse than tabloid trash talk growing up. Black in Harlem, she'd learned to fight with her head high and her heart fierce. Across town, Manhattan's Bryant Park was a circus of flashbulbs and egos as Fashion Week kicked into high gear. The runway tent glowed under a canopy of string lights, the air thick with perfume and ambition. Zara stood backstage adjusting a model's jacket, a bold piece with recycled denim and kente embroidery, part of her Roots Reborn collection. Her designs were set to close the chosen couture show a slot Esel had insisted on, and the pressure was suffocating. She caught her reflection in a mirror, her emerald gown, another of her creations, hugged her curves, the deep V-neck catching every light. She looked like she belonged, but the whispers from the front row told a different story. She's only here because of Carter. One editor sneered. A diversity pick, nothing more. Zara's fists clenched her nails, digging into her palms. She was nobody's token. Esel appeared behind her, his reflection joining hers in the mirror. He was all sharp lines, tailored navy suit, gray eyes like a storm brewing. You ready, Brooks? He asked, his voice low, steady, cutting through the backstage chaos. She turned, meeting his gaze. Born ready. But these folks out there, they're waiting for me to flop. He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, cedarwood sharp and warm. Then give him a show. He set a spark in his eyes. You're not here to blend in. You're here to burn. Her heart skipped his words, hitting harder than she expected. For a moment she forgot the cameras, the rumors, the weight of their fake relationship. But the moment shattered when a stage manager called her name, pulling her back to reality. The show was a blur of lights and applause. Zara's designs stole the night models, strutting in vibrant prints, denim jackets with hand-painted murals, dresses that flowed like Harlem's spirit. The crowd roared, but as she took her bow, she caught the glares from the elite in the front row, their claps polite, but their eyes cold. She wasn't one of them, and they made sure she knew it. Backstage, the adrenaline still pumping, Zara was adjusting a model's hem when Isel found her. The tent was quieter now, the crowd filtering out, but the tension between them was louder than ever. You killed it, he said, his voice softer than usual, almost proud. She stood wiping her hands on a rag. Yeah, well, tell that to the ones calling me your arm candy. His jaw tightened, a flicker of anger crossing his face. They're wrong, he said, stepping into her space, his voice dropping. You're not candy, Zara. You're the whole damn fire. Her breath hitched the air between them, crackling. He was too close, his eyes too intense, and her body betrayed her, leaning toward him like a moth to a flame. His hand found her cheek, his thumb brushing her jaw, slow and deliberate, sending heat spiraling through her. The backstage lights cast shadows across her skin, the hum of the runway fading as his lips hovered inches from hers. Careful, Carter, she whispered, her voice shaky but defiant. "This ain't part of the script." "Maybe it should be." He murmured, his breath warm against her lips, the words igniting something deep in her chest. Her pulse raced, every nerve screaming to close the gap. But a voice cut through the haze. "Zara." Naya stood at the edge of the tent, her arms crossed, eyes narrowed. "You good?" Zara stepped back, her heart pounding as she smoothed her gown. "Yeah, I'm good," she said, but the lie tasted bitter. She wasn't good. She was caught in a game she hadn't meant to play, and Isel Carter was making it way too hard to stay professional. Isel didn't flinch, his smirk returning as he nodded at Nia. "See you at the gala." "Brooks," he said, his voice a promise before disappearing into the crowd. Nia waited until he was gone, then grabbed Zara's arm. "Girl, what was that? You're supposed to be faking it, not falling for him." "I'm not falling," Zara snapped, but the heat in her cheeks said otherwise. "It's just business." Nia raised a brow. "Business don't look like that. Watch yourself, Zara. This world's got claws." The gala at the Met was a glittering cage, chandeliers dripping crystal champagne flowing, and egos sharper than the stilettos clicking on marble floors. Zara felt every eye on her as she entered on Isel's arm, her crimson gown a floor-length number with a slit that showed just enough leg-turning heads. She was Harlem's fire in a room full of ice, and she wore it like armor. Isel's hand rested on her lower back, a steady anchor as they navigated the crowd. "You're stealing the show," he murmured, his lips close to her ear, sending a shiver down her spine. "Don't flatter me, Carter," she shot back, but her smile betrayed her. "I'm here for the check, not the applause." His laugh was low, genuine, and for a moment she saw past the Ice King to the man beneath someone who'd been burned, but still craved the flame. Then she saw her Adrienne Amaro draped in a silver gown, her blonde hair swept up like a crown. She glided through the crowd, her smile sharp as a blade, and stopped in front of them. "Isel, darling," she purred, ignoring Zara. "You've been busy." Isel's grip on Zara tightened, his voice cold. "Save it, Adrienne. We're done." Adrienne's eyes flicked to Zara, sizing her up. "Oh, I see. Trading up for—" "What a charity case." Her laugh was venomous, loud enough to draw stares. "Enjoy your moment, sweetheart. It won't last." The room seemed to shrink, every whisper amplifying Adrienne's words. Zara's blood boiled, but she kept her chin high, her voice steady. "My designs don't need your approval, Adrienne," she said loud enough for the crowd to hear. "Harlem raised me tougher than your headlines. And trust me, I'm just getting started." A ripple of gasps and murmurs spread through the room, followed by a smattering of applause. Adrienne's smile faltered, but her eyes promised war. She turned on her heel, disappearing into the crowd, leaving Zara's heart racing with defiance and dread. Isel leaned close, his voice a low growl. "You just poked the bear." "Brooks, good," she said, meeting his gaze, her fire blazing. "Let her come." Back in Harlem, Zara's apartment was a sanctuary of chaos, fabric swatches on the floor, a half-finished sketch on her desk, and the faint hum of jazz from her dad's old records. She kicked off her heels, the Gala's adrenaline still buzzing in her veins when her phone lit up with a text from Malik, her younger brother. "Saw the news, sis. You really out here playing house with that suit? Harlem deserves better." Her chest tightened. Malik was her rock, her pain-in-the-ass little brother who'd inherited their dad's saxophone and their mom's stubborn streak. But he was wrong about Isel. Or was he? She typed a reply, then deleted it too. Tired to fight. A knock at the door startled her. She opened it to find Nia holding a takeout bag from their favorite soul food spot. "Figured you'd need some mac and cheese after that Gala stunt," Nia said, stepping inside. Zara managed a laugh, grabbing a fork. "You saw, girl, everybody saw. You shut Adrienne down, but she's not done. And Malik's pissed." Zara sighed, sinking onto the couch. "He thinks I'm selling out. Maybe he's right." Nia shook her head, her voice firm. "You're fighting for your people, Zara. The hub, your mom, your designs. That's not selling out. That's survival. But Isel, he's a wild card. Don't let him burn you." Zara nodded, but as she bit into the creamy mac and cheese, her mind drifted to Isel. His touch, his words, the way he'd stood by her tonight. She wasn't falling for him. She couldn't. But the fire between them was growing, and she wasn't sure she could stop it. At Chosen Couture's headquarters, Isel sat in his office. The city skyline, a dark canvas behind him. His laptop glowed with the new article, Zara Brooks, Harlem's Hope or Carter's Hustle. Adrienne's fingerprints were all over it, and he knew she was just warming up. His phone buzzed. Marcus, his CFO and best friend. "You sure about this girl?" "Isel, she's a liability. The board's freaking out." Isel's jaw clenched. "Zara's not a liability. She's the spark we need." Marcus sighed. "Sparks? Start fires, man, and fires burn everything down." Isel hung up his eyes on a photo from the Gala. Zara radiant in crimson, her fire outshining the chandeliers. He'd spent years building walls, keeping everyone at arm's length after Adrienne's betrayal. But Zara, she was cracking those walls, and he wasn't sure if he wanted to stop her. The French Quarter of New Orleans was a fever dream of color and sound, its cobblestone streets alive with the clink of Mardi Gras beads and the wail of trumpets. The air carried the sweet tang of beignets and the muddy breath of the Mississippi, wrapping Zara Brooks in a warmth that felt like home even 1,000 miles from Harlem. She stood on a balcony overlooking the chaos, her silk dress a deep violet number with a slit that teased her thigh, catching the glow of lanterns strung across the wrought iron railings. The dress was one of her own, stitched with love and defiance, a piece from her Roots Reborn collection that she'd brought to this city for Chosen Couture's Mardi Gras-inspired fashion show. Zara sipped her bourbon, the liquor's burn grounding her as she watched the street below. Masked revelers danced under flickering gas lamps, their laughter mingling with the Zydeco guitars spilling from a nearby club. She'd come to New Orleans at Isel Carter's invitation, a chance to showcase her designs on a bigger stage, but the weight of their fake relationship and the fire it was stoking in her chest made every moment feel like a tightrope walk. Her phone buzzed a text from Nia, lighting up the screen. "Drake's team just posted your designs on Insta, claiming they're theirs. Check it now." Zara's stomach dropped. She opened Instagram, her heart racing as she scrolled. There it was, a carousel of her sketches, the ones she'd spent months perfecting, now stamped with the logo of Lear Couture Drake's brand. The caption read, "Sneak peek at our Mardi Gras drop. Innovation starts here." Comments poured in, accusing her of copying, calling her a fraud. Her hands shook the bourbon glass, nearly slipping from her grip. Someone had hacked her files, and she had a sinking feeling Drake Lur was behind it. She hadn't told Isel about the hack, hadn't wanted to admit she'd been careless with her digital portfolio. Their deal was shaky enough without her adding fuel to the fire. But as she stood there, the New Orleans night pulsing around her, she felt the walls closing in. Harlem was counting on her. Her mom, the creative hub, her brother Malik, and she couldn't let Drake's lies bury her. A shadow fell across the balcony, and she turned to find Isel leaning against the door frame, his white linen shirt unbuttoned at the collar, revealing a glimpse of tanned skin. His gray eyes caught the lantern light, sharp and unreadable, but the way they lingered on her made her pulse jump. "Hiding out already?" "Brooks?" he asked, his voice a low drawl that sent a shiver down her spine. "Not hiding," she said, tucking her phone away, her voice steadier than she felt, just soaking in the vibe. He stepped closer, the scent of his cologne, cedarwood and citrus mixing with the night's sweetness. You don't strike me as the soak-it-in type, he said, a half-smirk tugging at his lips. What's got you spooked? She wanted to tell him about the hack about Drake, but the words stuck in her throat. Instead, she tilted her chin, meeting his gaze. Spooked? Nah, Carter. I'm just wondering how long you're gonna keep pretending this. She gestured between them as just for show. His smirk faded, replaced by something raw, unguarded. You tell me, Zara, he said, his voice dropping each word heavy with meaning, because I'm starting to forget the script. Her breath caught the air between them, crackling like a live wire. The balcony felt smaller, the lantern's glow tightening around them. She should have stepped back, should have shut it down, but her body had other plans, leaning into the heat of his presence, craving the spark she'd been fighting since that rooftop in Manhattan. Earlier that day, they'd sat at a corner table in Café du Monde, the iconic New Orleans spot where powdered sugar dusted the air like snow. Beignets piled high on a plate between them, steam rising from their chicory coffee. The cafe was a hum of tourists and locals, but for Zara, it was a rare moment of quiet with Isel away from the cameras and the chaos. He'd surprised her by opening up his guard lower than she'd ever seen. My dad lost everything when I was a kid, he said, stirring his coffee, his eyes distant. Trusted. The wrong partner got burned. That's why I built Chosen Control. No surprises. Zara studied him, seeing the cracks in his Ice King armor. Sounds lonely, she said softly, her fingers brushing the rim of her cup, keeping everyone at arm's length. He looked at her, his gaze piercing. Maybe. But you're making it hard to stay that way. Her heart skipped, but she pushed forward, needing to know him. What about your mom? She keep you grounded? A faint smile crossed his lips. She was Italian, an artist. Taught me to see beauty in the details. Fabrics, lines, stories. She'd have liked you. The past tense hit her like a punch. She's gone. He nodded, his voice quieter. Cancer. 10 years ago. Zara's chest tightened. Her own mom's battle with cancer was why she'd taken Isel's deal, why she was fighting so hard. My dad's gone too, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Jazz player. Got sick when I was a kid, left me his saxophone and a song. I can't stop hearing. Isel's hand slid across the table, his fingers brushing hers, warm and steady. You put that song in your designs, he said, not a question, but a truth. I see it, Zara. The world will too. For the first time, she didn't pull away. His touch lingered, a promise. Neither of them was ready to name, but the moment was broken by a text from Nia, warning her about Drake's hack. Zara had excused herself, the weight of her secret settling like lead in her chest. Now, on the balcony, that secret felt heavier than ever. Isel's eyes searched hers, seeing too much, and she wondered how long she could keep the truth from him. But before she could speak, he closed the distance, his hand finding her waist, pulling her gently against him. Come with me, he said, his voice a low command. There's something you need to see. She followed him through the French Quarter's winding streets, the night alive with music and mischief. He led her to Preservation Hall, a legendary jazz club where the air thrummed with history. The wooden floors creaked underfoot, candles flickering on scarred tables, and a Zydeco band filled the room with a rhythm that pulsed like a heartbeat. Isel didn't ask. He just took her hand, pulling her onto the dance floor. The music was infectious, all guitars and accordions, and Zara let herself go, her hips swaying to the beat, her violet dress slipping against her skin. Isel matched her, his movements fluid, confident, his hands firm on her waist as they moved together, bodies brushing in a way that felt anything but fake. The candles cast a warm haze, their glow dancing across her skin as she spun her laughter mingling with the music. His grip tightened, pulling her closer, her curves pressing against his chest. Your trouble, Brooks? he murmured, his breath hot against her ear, sending a shiver through her. Good trouble. She shot back, her voice teasing, but her eyes betrayed the heat building inside her. His hands slid lower, resting just above her hips, and the world narrowed to the rhythm of their bodies. The saxophones wailed, drowning out her doubts. Then it happened. His lips found hers, a kiss that started soft, tentative, then deepened into something fierce, hungry. Her hands tangled in his shirt, pulling him closer, the taste of bourbon and desire on his tongue. The club faded, the candles blurring into streaks of light, and for a moment it was just them, burning brighter than the New Orleans night. She pulled back, gasping, her heart pounding as reality crashed in. We can't, she whispered, her voice shaky. This wasn't supposed to happen. Esel's eyes were dark, intense, his hand still on her waist. Tell me you didn't feel that, he said, his voice raw. Tell me and I'll walk away. She couldn't. The lie wouldn't come. Instead, she turned, slipping through the crowd, needing air, needing space, needing to remember why she'd started this in the first place. The next day, the Mardi Gras fashion show at Jackson Square was a spectacle of color and chaos. Beads hung from oak trees. Street performers juggled fire, and Chosen Couture's runway stretched across the plaza framed by the St. Louis Cathedral's spires. Zara's designs were the finale, her chance to prove herself on a global stage, but Drake's hack loomed over her like a storm cloud. Backstage, she checked her tablet, her heart sinking as she saw the stolen designs plastered across Le Couture's socials. The comments were brutal. Zara Brooks is a thief, Chosen's desperate, scraping the bottom. She wanted to tell Esel, but he was across the tent, deep in conversation with Marcus, his CFO, his face a mask of focus. Nia found her, her voice urgent. Zara, you gotta come clean about the hack. If Drake drops those designs here, you're done. I know, Zara said, her voice tight. But if I tell Esel now, he'll think I'm a liability. I need to fix this myself. Nia grabbed her arm, her eyes fierce. You're not alone, girl. Let us help me. Rain, even Malik if he stops acting a fool. Zara nodded, but the mention of her brother stung. Malik hadn't spoken to her since his text, his anger a wall she didn't know how to climb. She pushed it down, focusing on the show. She'd fight for her name, her designs, her people, no matter what. The show began, Chosen's models strutting in sleek silks and bold prints. But the crowd's energy shifted when Le Couture's team, seated front row, started whispering. Then it happened. Drake's lead designer took the mic, announcing a surprise drop and projecting Zara's stolen designs on a massive screen, claiming them as Leah's own. The crowd gasped, cameras flashing, and Zara's world tilted. She stood frozen backstage, her designs, her heart paraded as someone else's. But then she saw Esel, his eyes locked on her, a silent question in his gaze. She wasn't going down like this. Grabbing a mic, Zara stormed onto the runway, her voice cutting through the chaos. Those are my designs, she said, her tone steel. Born in Harlem, stitched with my soul. If you want the real thing, watch this. She signaled the crew and her backup collection pieces. She'd kept secret, woven with recycled fabrics and jazz-inspired embroidery. Hit the runway. Models strutted in vibrant dresses, denim jackets painted with Harlem murals, each piece a middle finger to Drake's lies. The crowd erupted, phones lighting up, and Zara felt the tide turn. Esel joined her on the runway, his voice booming. Zara Brooks is the future of fashion, he said, his arm around her, the crowd roaring louder, and Chosen. Couture stands with her. The applause was deafening, but as Zara met his gaze, she saw more than a partner in a deal. She saw a man who believed in her, who'd chosen her in front of the world. Her heart raced, the kiss from last night, burning in her memory. and she knew there was no going back. Back at their hotel, Zara stood on the balcony, the Mississippi glittering below. Isel found her, his presence a quiet strength. "You were incredible today," he said, his voice soft but sure. Drake didn't stand a chance. She turned her eyes, searching his. "I didn't tell you about the hack," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought I could handle it." His jaw tightened, but his hand found hers, warm and steady. "You don't have to handle it alone." "Zara, we're in this together." Her chest ached, the weight of her secret lifting, but the fire between them flared hotter. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. "You're making it real hard to keep this fake, Carter." He pulled her in his lips, brushing her forehead, a promise in his touch. "Good," he murmured, "because I'm done pretending." The Wynwood walls in Miami were a riot of color murals, blazing under the tropical sun. Their bold lines and neon hues a mirror to Zara Brooks's own fire. She stood in the heart of the arts district, her crimson gown a daring cutout design with slashes of recycled denim catching every eye at the International Fashion Summit. The event was a global stage with designers, CEOs, and influencers packed into an open-air venue where salsa music pulsed from hidden speakers and the air smelled of spray paint and salt. But for Zara, the spotlight felt like a spotlight exposing every crack in the facade she'd built with Isel Carter. Her phone buzzed relentlessly, notifications piling up since Adrienne Maro's latest move. The ex-wife of Chosen Couture's CEO had dropped a bomb that morning, a leaked video posted anonymously, but reeking of Adrienne's venom, showing Zara and Isel backstage at the Apollo Theater, their voices clear as they discussed their fake relationship. The clip was edited to paint Zara as a gold digger, Isel as a desperate manipulator. Twitter was a war zone, #ZaraFraud trending comments calling her a hustler, a sellout, a Harlem girl who'd traded her soul for a paycheck. Zara's chest tightened as she scanned the crowd, their whispers louder than the salsa beat. She'd fought too hard for this moment. Her Roots Reborn collection was set to headline the summit, a chance to prove she was more than Isel's arm candy. But now, with the video spreading like wildfire, she felt the ground crumbling beneath her. Isel stood beside her, his tailored black suit sharp against the vibrant murals, his gray eyes scanning the venue with a predator's focus. He hadn't said much since the leak, his silence a wall she couldn't breach. "We need to talk," she said, her voice low, barely cutting through the crowd's hum. "Not here," he replied, his tone clipped, his hand brushing her elbow as he guided her toward a quieter corner. The touch was brief, but it sent a jolt through her, a reminder of the kiss they'd shared in New Orleans, the fire that had burned too bright to contain. They stopped near a mural of a phoenix, its wings splashed in neon pink and gold. Zara crossed her arms, her gown's fabric sliding against her skin, grounding her. "You saw the video," she said, meeting his gaze. "The board's gonna lose it, Isel. And don't act like you're not pissed. I kept the hack from you." His jaw clenched, the storm in his eyes darkening. "You should have told me. Zara Drake's been one step ahead because you played lone wolf. Now we're both exposed." She flinched, the truth stinging. She'd hidden the hack to protect their deal, to prove she could handle her own battles. But it had backfired. "I was trying to fix it," she said, her voice rising. "You think I wanted this to be your scandal of the week? You're not a scandal," he snapped, stepping closer, his voice a low growl. "You're the only real thing in this mess, but secrets. That's how trust dies." Her heart pounded, his words cutting deeper than the headlines. She wanted to fight back, to tell him he was no saint either, but the hurt in his eyes stopped her. They weren't just partners in a deal anymore. They were something more, something neither of them had planned. Before she could respond, a voice cut through the tension. "Well, isn't this cozy?" Adrienne Morrow sauntered over her silver dress, glinting like a blade, her smile sharp enough to draw blood. "Trouble in paradise, darling." She purred her eyes, flicking between them. Zara's fists clenched, but Isel spoke first, his voice ice-cold. "Walk away. Adrienne, you've done enough." Adrienne laughed, tossing her blonde hair. "Oh, Isel, you're still so naive. The board's already circling, and your little Harlem project." She sneered at Zara. "She's dragging you down with her." Zara stepped forward, her voice steady despite the fire in her chest. "Keep my name out your mouth, Adrienne. You want to play dirty? I was born in the dirt, and I still shine." The crowd nearby turned phones raised, capturing every word. Adrienne's smile didn't waver, but her eyes promised war. "Enjoy your 15 minutes. Zara," she said, turning away. "They're almost up." The summit's after-party at a rooftop club in South Beach was a haze of neon and hedonism, palm trees swaying under a starlit sky. The ocean roared below its salt tang, mixing with the scent of mojitos and sweat. Zara stood at the edge of the rooftop, her gown catching the breeze, the slit revealing a flash of thigh as she gripped a glass of rum. The music, a pulsing mix of reggaeton and hip-hop, vibrated through her, but it couldn't drown out the chaos in her head. The video had gone global, and the fallout was brutal. Chosen Couture's stock was tanking the board, demanding an emergency meeting, and Malik, her brother, had posted a cryptic Instagram story. "Family over fame. Choose wisely, sis." Each word was a knife slicing through the bond they'd always shared. Isel found her, his shirt sleeves rolled up, a rare crack in his polished armor. "You're avoiding me," he said, his voice softer now but still edged with frustration. She turned the ocean's glow reflecting in her eyes. "Can you blame me? Your world's eating me alive, Isel. And Malik, he thinks I'm betraying Harlem." He stepped closer, the space between them shrinking, the music fading to a distant thrum. "You're not betraying anyone," he said, his hand brushing her arm warm against her skin. "You're fighting for your people." "Zara Malik will see that." Her laugh was bitter, her voice breaking. "Will he, or will he see me as the girl who sold out for a rich guy's money, who let Drake steal her work because she was too scared to trust you?" Isel's eyes darkened, his hand dropping. "You think I don't get it? My dad trusted the wrong people, lost everything. I built Chosen to never feel that again, but you..." He paused, his voice raw. "You make me want to risk it all." Her breath caught the confession, hitting like a wave. The rooftop spun, the neon lights blurring as she stepped toward him, her heart pounding. "Then why does it feel like we're falling apart?" she whispered, her voice trembling. He didn't answer with words. Instead, he pulled her into him, his hands framing her face, his lips crashing into hers with a desperation that stole her breath. The kiss was fierce, hungry salt from the ocean breeze lingering on their lips. Her fingers dug into his back, nails grazing through his shirt as the waves roared below, matching the pulse, thundering in her veins. Moonlight painted her shoulders, her gown slipping slightly as his hands roamed her waist, pulling her closer, their bodies pressed tight against the night. She broke away, gasping, her forehead resting against his. "We're a mess, Carter," she said, her voice shaky but alive with fire. "Good," he murmured, his thumb tracing her lower lip, sparking heat under her skin. "I'd rather burn with you than play it safe." For a moment they stood there, the ocean's rhythm syncing with their breaths, the world beyond the rooftop fading away. But the weight of the video, the board and Malik's betrayal pressed in a reminder that their fire was still under siege. The summit's main stage the next day was a battleground. The Wynwood venue buzzed with anticipation cameras trained on the runway where Zara's collection would close the show, but the air was thick with tension, the leaked video looping on every blog, every screen. Backstage, Zara adjusted a model's jacket, her hands steady despite the storm in her chest. Nia was there, her presence a lifeline. "You don't have to do this," Nia said, her voice low. "Walk away." "Zara, let Isel deal with his mess." Zara shook her head, her eyes fierce. "I'm not running, Nia. This is my stage, my fight. Harlem's watching." Nia nodded, squeezing her hand. "Then show 'em who you are, Queen." The show began. Chosen's designs dazzling under the neon lights, but the crowd's energy shifted when Zara's collection hit the runway. Her pieces vibrant dresses with jazz-inspired embroidery. Denim jackets painted with Harlem's spirit told a story of resilience of roots reborn. The audience leaned forward, phones raised, but Zara felt the weight of their judgment, the whispers of fraud still lingering. Then Adrian's team struck again. A massive screen behind the runway flickered, replaying the leaked video. Zara's voice echoing, "I'm not your puppet, Carter." The crowd gasped, murmurs rippling, and Zara's heart stopped. She saw Isel in the front row, his face unreadable, and for a moment she thought she'd lost everything. But she wasn't done. Grabbing a mic, she stepped onto the runway, her gown blazing under the lights, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Y'all want the truth," she said, her tone steel, her Harlem, fire burning bright. "I started this with Isel to save my mom, to save the creative hub, to keep Harlem's heart beating. Every dollar I got went to my people, not my pockets. You want to call me a fraud? Look at my work. Look at my soul." She gestured to the models, her designs a testament to her truth. "This is Harlem. This is me. And yeah, I love Isel Carter. Not for his money, but for the man who stood by me when the world tried to tear me down. So go ahead, throw your shade. I'm still here, and I'm still shining." The crowd was silent for a heartbeat, then erupted in applause, phones lighting up as the narrative shifted. Zara stood tall, her chest heaving. But as she met Isel's gaze, she saw the storm in his eyes. He stood clapping slowly, his expression a mix of pride and something darker doubt. Backstage, he found her. His voice low, strained. "You should have told me about the hack, Zara. And now this video. The board's calling for my head." Her heart sank, the weight of her choices crushing her. "I was protecting you," she said, her voice breaking. "I thought I could fix it. Protecting me." He snapped, his eyes flashing. "You hid the truth. That's not protection. That's betrayal." The word hit like a blade, and for the first time Zara felt their fire flicker, teetering on the edge of collapse. She turned away, her eyes burning with unshed tears, the roar of the crowd fading as the reality of their fight sank in. At the creative hub that night, Zara sat alone, sketching under a flickering bulb. Malik's Instagram story looped in her mind, his words a reminder of the family she was losing. Nia had texted warning her about Drake's next move, rumors of a shareholder buyout to oust Isel, and Isel's voice, sharp with betrayal, echoed louder than the rest. She traced a design, a dress inspired by her dad's saxophone, its curves like a melody, and wondered if she'd been wrong to trust Isel to let herself feel. But the memory of his kiss, the way he'd stood by her on that runway, refused to fade. They were a mess, but they were her mess, and she wasn't ready to let it burn out. The Harlem night was alive with the hum of streetlights and the distant wail of a saxophone, a melody that curled through the open windows of Zara Brooks's apartment like a ghost of her father's music. She sat on her worn couch, surrounded by fabric swatches and half-finished sketches, the glow of a single lamp casting shadows across her face. Her crimson gown from the Miami summit hung in the corner, a reminder of the fire she'd unleashed and the fight that had nearly broken her and Isel Carter. Her phone lay silent, but the weight of the past week pressed heavy. The leaked video of their fake relationship had sent Chosen Couture's stock into freefall, the board demanding Isel's resignation. Malik's Instagram story calling her out for choosing fame over family still stung like a fresh wound. And Isel's words, "That's not protection. That's betrayal," echoed louder than the city's pulse. She'd poured her heart out on that Wynwood stage, declaring her love for him, but his doubt had cut deeper than any headline. A knock at the door jolted her. She opened it to find Nia Carter, her best friend, holding a takeout bag from their favorite soul food spot, her braids catching the hallway light. "You look like you need some collard greens and a reality check," Nia said, stepping inside with a grin that didn't quite reach her eyes. Zara managed a weak laugh, grabbing a fork. "Reality's been checking me all week. Nia, what's up?" Nia set the bag down, her voice dropping. Rain reached out. "She's got something on Drake. Big, but it's messy. Zara, Malik's involved." Zara's fork froze halfway to her mouth, her heart sinking. "Malik. What did he do?" Nia hesitated, then pulled out her phone, showing an encrypted email Rain had forwarded. Malik was working with Drake's team, feeding them info for cash. He didn't know it was tied to the hack, but he gave them access to your files. The room spun, the taste of collards turning bitter. Malik, her baby brother, the one who'd inherited their dad's saxophone and their mom's stubborn heart, had betrayed her. "Why?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "He needed money," Nia said softly. "For Mom's bills for the hub." He thought he was helping, but Drake played him. Zara's eyes burned anger and hurt, twisting inside her. She wanted to scream to find Malik and shake him, but beneath it all was a deeper pain, the fear that she'd pushed him away, that her deal with Isel had fractured their family. "I gotta talk to him," she said, grabbing her jacket. Now Nia grabbed her arm, her voice firm. "Not yet. Rain's digging deeper, and we need you at Chosen's shareholder meeting tomorrow. The board's voting on Isel's future, and Drake's pushing to take over. You're the only one who can turn this around." Zara nodded, her jaw tight. She'd fight for Isel, for Harlem, for her name, but first she had to face the man who'd called her a liar, and still held her heart. Chosen Couture's Manhattan headquarters was a fortress of glass and steel, its penthouse boardroom overlooking a skyline that glittered like a challenge. Isel Carter stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, his tailored charcoal suit a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside him. The board's ultimatum was clear: prove his leadership or step down. The leaked video had painted him as a fraud, and Zara's secrecy about the hack had shaken his trust. But her words on that Wynwood stage, "I love Isel." Carter had cracked something open in him, something he hadn't felt since his mother's death. Marcus Reed, his CFO and best friend, paced the room, his voice sharp. "You're gambling everything on this girl, Isel. The board's ready to hand Drake the keys, and Zara's drama isn't helping." Isel turned his eyes cold, but steady. "Zara's not drama. She's the spark we need to rebuild. And Drake, he's a snake who'll choke on his own lies." Marcus sighed, running a hand over his bald head. "I hope you're right, man. Because if you're wrong, Chosen's done." The elevator dinged, and Zara stepped into the boardroom, her presence like a flame in the sterile space. She wore a fitted blazer and skirt, both her own designs, recycled denim, with kente accents, a nod to Harlem's soul. Her eyes met Isel's, and for a moment, the room faded, the memory of their South Beach kiss burning between them. "We need to talk," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. Alone, Marcus raised a brow but left closing the door behind him. Zara stepped closer, the scent of her jasmine perfume wrapping around Isel, grounding him. "I messed up," she said, her voice raw. "I kept the hack from you because I was scared. Scared you'd see me as a liability. Scared I'd lose you, but I'm done hiding." Esel's jaw tightened, but his eyes softened, searching hers. You should have trusted me, Zara. After everything, you still thought I'd cut you loose. I didn't know what to think, she admitted, her voice breaking. You called me a betrayal, Esel. That hurt more than any headline. He flinched, the truth hitting hard. He'd spent years building walls, keeping everyone at arm's length. But Zara had slipped through her fire, melting his defenses. I was wrong, he said, stepping closer, his voice low, fervent. You're not a betrayal. You're my home. Her breath caught the words, unraveling her. She wanted to stay angry, to hold on to the hurt, but his eyes, stormy, vulnerable, pulled her in. Prove it, she whispered, her voice a challenge. He didn't hesitate. His hands found her waist, pulling her into him, his lips crashing into hers with a passion that stole the air from the room. The kiss was fierce, a vow candlelight from the boardroom's chandelier dancing on her skin as his fingers roamed her back, tracing the curve of her spine through her blazer. Her nails grazed his neck, sparking heat through his veins. The city's hum fading as their breaths synced, urgent and alive. The kiss deepened her body, melting into his, the scent of jasmine and cedarwood blending with the faint burn of coffee from a nearby pot. She pulled back, gasping, her forehead resting against his. We're still a mess, she said, her voice shaky but warm, a smile tugging at her lips. Then let's be a mess together, he murmured, his thumb brushing her cheek, igniting sparks under her skin. No more secrets, Zara, just us. She nodded, her heart pounding, but the weight of Malik's betrayal and Drake's schemes loomed. There's something else, she said, her voice steadying. Malik. He helped Drake, didn't know what he was doing. Rain and Nia found proof. We can stop him, Esel, but we gotta move fast. His eyes darkened, but he squeezed her hand, a silent promise. Then let's burn this down together. The shareholder meeting was a battlefield, the boardroom packed with suits and tension. Esel stood at the head of the table, Zara by his side, her presence a quiet strength. Drake Lear sat across from them, his smug grin a contrast to Adrienne's icy stare beside him. The board's chairman, a gray-haired titan named Harold Vance, tapped his pen, his voice clipped. Mr. Carter, this video has tarnished Chosen's credibility. Explain yourself, or we vote you out. Esel's voice was steel, his eyes locked on Drake. The video was a lie, orchestrated by someone who wants my company, but I'm not here to defend myself. I'm here to show you the truth. He nodded to Rain, who stood in the corner, her laptop open. Esel's younger sister, a fierce art student with a knack for tech, projected a series of emails onto the screen, proof that Drake had hired a hacker to steal Zara's designs with Malik, unwittingly providing access through a phishing scam. The room gasped as Rain played a recorded call, Drake's voice clear. Get me those files, and Carter's done. Zara stepped forward, her voice ringing with Harlem's fire. Drake didn't just steal my work, she said, her eyes blazing. He tried to erase me, to erase Harlem. But I'm still here, and so is Chosen Couture. Esel's not just a CEO, he's a man who fights for what's right. That's why I'm standing with him, not because of some deal, but because I believe in him. The board murmured, their faces shifting from doubt to intrigue. Esel took her hand, his voice steady. Zara Brooks is Chosen's future. Her designs, her vision, her heart. That's what we stand for. Drake and Adrian thought they could break us, but they forgot one thing: fire doesn't bend. Drake's grin faltered, Adrian's face paling as the board erupted in questions. Harold raised a hand, silencing the room. We'll investigate, he said, his eyes narrowing at Drake. But for now, Mr. Carter, you have our vote. The room exhaled, and Zara squeezed Esel's hand, her heart soaring. They'd won this round, but the war wasn't over. That night, Fashion Week at Bryant Park was a triumph. The tent glowed under a canopy of stars. The runway a stage for Zara's roots. Reborn collection. Models strutted in vibrant dresses, denim jackets painted with Harlem murals and gowns that sang of jazz and resilience. The crowd roared, phones lighting up as Zara took her bow, her eyes finding Isel in the front row, his clap steady proud. Backstage, she found Malik waiting, his saxophone case slung over his shoulder, his eyes red with regret. "I messed up, sis," he said, his voice breaking. "I thought I was helping mom the hub. I didn't know Drake was using me." Zara's throat tightened, anger and love warring inside her. "You hurt me, Malik," she said, her voice soft but firm. "But you're my brother. We fix this together. Okay?" He nodded, pulling her into a hug, the weight of their family's bond settling back into place. "I got you," he whispered. "Always." Naya and Rain joined them, Nia's grin wide. "Told you we'd bring the heat, Zara. Drake's done and Harlem's still standing." Zara laughed, the sound lighter than it had been in weeks. But as she caught Isel's gaze across the tent, his smile warm and unguarded, she knew the real victory was the man who'd fought for her, who'd chosen her fire over his walls. Later in Isel's penthouse, the Manhattan skyline sparkled through the windows, a canvas of light and shadow. Candles flickered on the table, their glow dancing on Zara's skin as she stood in his living room. Her blazer discarded her skirt, hugging her curves. Isel poured 2 glasses of bourbon, his eyes never leaving her. "You were unstoppable today," he said, handing her a glass, his voice low, reverent. "I've never seen anything like you, Zara." She took a sip, the liquor's burn grounding her. "We did that together," she said, stepping closer, her jasmine perfume mingling with his cedarwood scent. "No more walls, Carter, just us." He set his glass down, his hands finding her waist, pulling her into him. "Just us." He echoed, his lips brushing hers, soft at first, then deepening into a kiss that felt like a vow. Her fingers tangled in his hair, her body pressing against his, the candlelight flickering as his hands roamed her back, tracing the curve of her spine. The city's hum faded, replaced by the rhythm of their breaths, the heat of their touch, the promise of a future they'd fight for together. She pulled back, her eyes shining. "We're building something real, aren't we?" He smiled, his thumb brushing her cheek. "Realer than anything I've ever known." The Brooklyn Bridge stretched across the night like a ribbon of light, its cables glowing under 1,000 city stars. Zara Brooks stood at its center, the Hudson River shimmering below the Manhattan skyline, a glittering backdrop to the moment that would change everything. Her leather jacket, a custom piece with Harlem graffiti painted on the back, kept the autumn chill at bay. But nothing could cool the fire in her chest as she turned to Isel Carter, his gray eyes catching the bridge's glow like a storm about to break. They'd come here after a long day at the Creative Hub, where Zara had unveiled a new mural with Rainy Cell's sister, a vibrant tribute to Harlem's jazz and resilience funded by the money they'd saved from their deal. The past weeks had been a whirlwind. Drake Lear and Adrienne Morrow were facing fraud charges, Chosen Couture's stock was soaring, and Zara's Roots Reborn collection had cemented her as a force in fashion. But the real victory was the man beside her, the one who'd fought for her, who'd chosen her fire over his walls. "You're quiet tonight, Carter," Zara said, leaning against the railing, her voice teasing but soft. "What's cooking in that CEO brain of yours?" Isel's lips curved into a half-smirk, the kind that still made her pulse race. "Just thinking about how you turned my world upside down." "Brooks," he said, stepping closer, his tailored coat brushing her arm, "and how I wouldn't change a damn thing." Her heart skipped the city's hum, fading as his scent cedarwood and a hint of bourbon wrapped around her. She tilted her head, meeting his gaze. "Careful, Isel. You're sounding soft." He laughed low and warm, but his eyes were serious, intense. "Maybe I am," he said, his voice dropping. "Maybe you're the only one who's ever made me want to be." Before she could respond, he reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. Her breath caught as he knelt, the bridge's lights twinkling like a promise. "Zara Brooks," he said, his voice steady but thick with emotion. "I thought I'd never love again, thought I could control everything. But you're my fire, my home, my everything. No contracts, no deals, just us. Will you marry me?" The world stopped, the river's breeze stilling as tears pricked her eyes. The ring, a diamond set in a band etched with jazz notes, a nod to her father's song, glittered in the box, catching the city's glow. She laughed, a shaky, joyful sound, and nodded. "Hell yeah." "Carter," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm all in." He slid the ring onto her finger, standing to pull her into a kiss that burned brighter than the skyline. Her hands tangled in his coat, his lips fierce against hers, the taste of bourbon and love sparking heat through her veins. A street busker's jazz drifted from the bridge's end, sealing the moment, and Zara knew this was their forever, a fire forged through trials, unyielding and true. The Garden District of New Orleans was a dreamscape of oak trees and magnolia blooms, the air heavy with the scent of jasmine and the promise of a new beginning. The mansion they'd chosen for their wedding was a vision of southern elegance, white columns draped in fairy lights, a sprawling lawn where guests mingled under a starlit sky. Zara stood in a private suite, her reflection glowing in a full-length mirror. Her wedding gown, a creation of her own, was a masterpiece, ivory lace with Kente embroidery, its fitted bodice flowing into a train that shimmered like moonlight. Every stitch told her story: Harlem's heart, her father's jazz, her mother's strength. Nia adjusted her veil, her grin wide. "Girl, you look like a queen," she said, her braids catching the candlelight. "Harlem's proud." "Zara." Zara smiled, her eyes misty. "Couldn't have done it without you, Nia. You kept me grounded." Nia hugged her, careful not to crush the gown. "Always, sis. Now go get your man downstairs." The ceremony unfolded under a canopy of twinkling lights, a jazz band playing a soft rendition of her father's song, the one she'd woven into her designs. Malik stood at the front, his saxophone gleaming, his eyes shining with pride. He'd spent weeks making amends, designing the logo for Zara's new brand. Zara B. Couture, and his presence here playing their dad's melody was his final apology. Isel waited at the altar, his black tuxedo sharp and timeless, his gray eyes locked on Zara as she walked down the aisle. The crowd, friends, family, Harlem's community, Chosen's team, faded as she reached him, his hand finding hers warm and steady. "You're breathtaking," he whispered, his voice raw with awe. "You're not so bad yourself, Carter," she teased, her smile radiant. Marcus, officiating, cleared his throat, his voice warm. "Zara and Isel, you've faced fires most would run from: lies, betrayal, the world's noise. But here you stand, united by love, by trust, by a flame that won't die. Vow to keep that fire burning always." They did their vows, a blend of Harlem grit and heartfelt promises. "I vow to fight for you, Zara," Isel said, his eyes never leaving hers, "to choose you every day no matter what. And I vow to keep you real," Isel Zara said, her voice steady, "to love you with every piece of my soul, Harlem and all." The crowd cheered as they kissed a slow, searing kiss that sealed their bond, the jazz band swelling into a joyful crescendo. Zara's lace gown brushed against his tucks, their hands locked, and the world felt right whole, theirs. The reception was a celebration of love and legacy. The mansion's lawn transformed into a dance floor, where Zydeco and hip-hop mingled with soul-food fried catfish, cornbread, peach cobbler, served under lantern-lit tents. Zara and Isel took their first dance under a canopy of stars, the band playing a sultry jazz number that echoed their fire. Her gown swayed the lace, catching the light, and his hands locked around her waist, pulling her close, their bodies moving as one. The music pulsed, the lanterns casting a warm glow on her skin as she pressed against him, her fingers tracing his jaw. "You're stuck with me now, Carter," she murmured, her breath warm against his ear, sparking heat through his veins. "Good," he growled, his lips grazing her neck, the touch sending shivers down her spine. "Because I'm never letting you go." Their dance was a vow, every step, a promise, their bodies melting into the rhythm, the crowd fading as the jazz hummed their love, burning brighter than the stars. Rain twirling nearby with a glass of champagne caught Zara's eye and winked. "Y'all are giving me cavities," she called, her laugh infectious. Malik joined in his saxophone riff, adding a playful note, and Nia raised a glass, her grin wide, to Harlem's queen and her king. The night stretched on laughter and music filling the air. But for Zara, the real moment came later when she and Isel slipped away to a quiet corner of the garden. Magnolia petals soft under their feet. They sat on a bench, her head resting on his shoulder. The distant jazz, a lullaby. "We did it," she whispered, her ring glinting in the moonlight. "From a fake fling to this." He pressed a kiss to her hair, his voice low, reverent. "You made me believe in forever, Zara. I'll spend my life proving I'm worthy of it." She smiled, her heart full. "You already are." Weeks later, Zara B. Couture launched at a Harlem block party. The creative hub, reborn as a beacon of art and fashion. Zara's collection. Sustainable designs woven with Harlem's soul, sold out online in hours. Her father's song, the soundtrack to a runway that stretched down 125th Street. Isel stood by her side, his pride evident, his hand never leaving hers. They'd founded the Brooks Carter Foundation, a charity to support Black designers, with Malik and Rain leading workshops at the hub. The community thrived, its murals brighter, its jazz louder, and Zara felt her father's legacy in every note, every stitch. One evening they stood on the hub's rooftop, the Harlem skyline a canvas of light and shadow. Isel pulled her close, his arms a haven. "I used to think success was power," he said, his voice thoughtful. "But you showed me it's this building, something that lasts, something real." Zara leaned into him, her smile radiant. "We're just getting started. Carter, Harlem, chosen us. Our fire's gonna light up the world." They kissed under the stars, the saxophones wailed drifting from below their love, a flame that would never fade. New York, New Orleans, Miami, they'd faced every storm and come out stronger, their bond a testament to the truth that love, when fought for, could burn eternal. That's Zara and Isel's fire, y'all. From a rooftop spark to a love that lit up Harlem. Their stories one for the ages. What moment got you Brooklyn Bridge or that New Orleans dance? Drop it in the comments and tell us what love story you want next. Smash that subscribe button to keep the vibes alive. Let's make more magic together.